Good morning. I am so glad to get to share our passage with you this morning out of Acts 2, verses 42 to 47. So what I think this shows is a really clear picture of what it means not just to attend church, but to be the church. So in this passage, you see a clear picture of community, of shared life. And it begins or is born out of their common love for the Lord. They have been, they're new believers and they're gathering together. And the first word used in verse 42, or one of the first words, is that they were devoting themselves. There was a devotion in them to the things of God, what they were learning about what it meant to be a Christian, what it meant to follow Jesus. And this common devotion was fueled by the Holy Spirit that was put into them when they became believers. And this devotion that they have is resulted in a connection, into personal interaction, and an affection that they have for each other. They are sharing an intimacy with God that deepens their intimacy with each other. So I see a picture here of being in the church, or being the church requires a devotion. It's a devotion to learning the truth, which is in the Word, the Apostles' teaching. A devotion to gathering together, to share what they've learned, to worship the Lord together, and to pray together. They have committed themselves to remembering through communion, and that's what the breaking of bread here refers to, is remembering what Jesus did that brings them into fellowship with God, as well as fellowship with each other. And a result of this commitment brings about the fruit of what's in the last half of the passage, where they're having awe at the signs and wonders. They had everything in common, and they sold property and possessions. They were using their goods and their gifts to share with each other, with people in need. There was sacrifice, there was service, and needs were being met. This is just such a great atmosphere set up in the first part of the passage, coupled in with what they're learning, how they're spending time together, how they're coming before the Lord in prayer. And every day they were meeting together in the temple courts. They were eating in each other's homes. And it says they were sharing their meals with glad and sincere hearts. I see this picture of a dynamic living organism. They were praising God and enjoying the favor of the people, and the Lord was adding to their number daily. This was a group of people who started out as 120 followers of Christ who were in Jerusalem, and in one day, overnight, they become 3,000. And God was adding to their number more daily. The church was growing. This connection that they had with each other, their willingness to be together and sharing this common love for Jesus, common love for the Word, common love to serve, and a love for each other. This fellowship or shared life, it's the ideal medium to grow in the things of God. 1 Corinthians 3:9, Paul says, "For we are co-workers with God. You are God's cultivated garden, the house he's building." And Paul's speaking to the church, calling it a cultivated garden. And this picture I see is like the soil of a garden. God is tilling up the hearts of these folks. And I know in my own personal experience, it's in spending time with other believers and in studying the Word, to pray, to have fellowship together, that we begin to draw closer and closer to each other, and it perpetuates this growth in the things of God. For example, I know not just for myself, but I've seen other people too. Things of the Spirit are often new or strange with folks, but the more that you're engaged in it, the more connection you have with others who are involved, the more natural the supernatural becomes. The more natural it is to love God, to love other people, and to make disciples. And that's what we see here, is this organic growth that's taking place in this group. And we know, anybody who does gardening knows that it takes time and commitment to grow a garden. And God's willing to invest in us, and we need to be willing to invest our time and energy into growing as well. True church life, the community of believers, is something that we need to experience regularly. And in fact, the passage talks about their daily gathering. And it is in this regular gathering, regular experiencing of shared life, that we cooperate with God in building our connection, cultivating our connection with Him, our interactions and connections with each other, and affection for each other. And Jesus was at the center of this church, and He's still at the center of the church today. And one of His commandments is that we love one another. That's how people will know that we are His, by the way we love. Did this church love each other perfectly? I don't think so. It doesn't point that out in this passage. But if you read the New Testament, you see that things weren't always perfect in the New Testament church. But Jesus made us a provision for our imperfections through grace and through forgiveness. It is what Jesus did for us, and it's grace that's part of the soil of fellowship that we cultivate. We learn to grow in our grace for ourselves and for each other. We learn what it means to give forgiveness as well as receive forgiveness, and we can then love each other in freedom without the performance or perfection being part of what we do. Sadly, people often avoid being the church and only want to attend church because they've been hurt in community before. And that's sad. It's unfortunate. But because we're human, it happens. And I thank God that Jesus made a provision for that, so that we do get hurt in community, but we also have the opportunity to heal in community. So this passage gives us a beautiful picture of a dynamic, living organism, a garden, if you will. What it takes, though, is devotion and time spent in fellowship like this. And it cultivates our personal growth in the things of God, as well as growth in the church. Just look at how the passage ends, where it talks about people were having this church was having favor with the people, and God was adding to their numbers day by day. I hope that you can see yourself being regularly involved in these things that allow accepting the life of Christ from other Christians, as well as being able to give away this life and experience the interdependence that we see in the early church. So God bless you. Have a great day.